Don't change the channel, you guys. Breaking news. A third assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump was just thwarted in California. Check this out.
Now to a developing story out of California. A man with multiple guns was arrested outside of former President Donald Trump's rally in California Saturday. The local sheriff says 49-year-old Vem Miller illegally had a shotgun, loaded handgun, and a high-capacity magazine. They say the arrest did not impact the safety of the former president or event attendees.
So here's the Riverside County Sheriff providing the latest details on the third Donald Trump assassination attempt, guys. Oh, and pay very special attention to how he's hinting that the FBI and the Secret Service may be covering up this attempt on Donald Trump's life. Here, check this out.
That outside perimeter are I will give you his name. The name that we have, and I'm going to put an asterisk by it as I explain this later. But we have his name as Vem, V-E-M, Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R. He was released. He will have to further his court case is in the future. Right now, we are actively engaged in working with Secret Service and the FBI to ensure that this person is followed up on and all of the information that they can gather. I can tell you that from my perspective, from a state law enforcement agency's perspective, the firearms charges is what we arrested him for and booked him on. Anything further will come from the federal government, and quite frankly, I don't know if we will be a part of that.
Now, already, guys, people are coming together to both condemn this third assassination attempt and to pray for Trump's safety.
Now, different reaction about this third possible Trump assassination attempt from different lawmakers, including Republican Representative Anna Paulina Luna saying, "I just received word of the third assassination attempt on President Trump's life. This is a time and our nation must come together to condemn violence. This is an abhorrent and should never be tolerated in a civilized society. Our thoughts are with President Trump and his family."
Seriously, guys, this is getting ridiculous. I mean, you know, Democrats are desperate at this point, right? And you know what I've always said about desperate people? They're dangerous people. Now, my uncle, he started including Trump and JD Vance in his nightly prayers. He said he's praying for God's protection for the Republican ticket and for their families, because we definitely don't want any bloodshed on either side. You with me, guys? So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this third assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. So this happened in the Coachella rally in California literally just a few days ago. Now, what happened was Vem Miller, 49 years old, was caught at a police checkpoint, allegedly trying to enter the rally with a phony press pass. So the cops noticed his car was unregistered, so they searched the vehicle and discovered, get this, guys, a cache of fake passports and driver's licenses, along with a shotgun, a loaded handgun, and a high-capacity magazine. Do any of you guys just ride around with all that stuff in your car? They were able to book him on weapons charges, but he was sprung after posting a $5,000 bail. Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco, though, he told the press that his department had all but saved Donald Trump's life. According to the sheriff, he truly does believe that they prevented another assassination attempt. What do y'all think? But federal agencies are trying to put their spin on the story. So according to this, the Secret Service believes it is unlikely Miller was attempting to assassinate the president, and the FBI is not investigating it as such. Can you believe this? They want to highlight the fact that Miller is a member of an anti-government far-right group and probably had the weapons for personal defense alone. Really? So you ride around with 3 guns, fake passports, multiple driver's licenses, a shotgun, and a loaded handgun, and a high-capacity magazine just for personal protection? Seriously? Is anybody else buying this? Because I'm not. The Secret Service later said Donald Trump wasn't at risk during the rally. According to their assessment, the incident did not impact protective operations and former President Donald Trump was not in any danger. They added that while no federal arrest had been made at this time, the investigation is ongoing. So there is an investigation going on? There is or there isn't? What are they talking about here? Now, I'm pretty sure they're having a grand old time investigating themselves, if you know what I mean. Because according to the sheriff whose men actually did the checking and arresting, what Miller's frame of mind was, all we can do is speculate. But for him, he said he probably did have deputies that prevented the third assassination attempt. He added his own perspective into the assassination attempt, saying that if we are that politically lost, that we have lost sight of common sense and reality and reason that we can't say, holy crap, what did he show up with all that stuff for? And he's going to be accused of being dramatic? We have a serious problem in our country, guys. This is common sense and reason. Now, Bianco also said any charges having to do with an assassination attempt would be handled by federal authorities and not his office, and that he was working with both Secret Service and the FBI. So if no arrest happens, it's the federal authorities making that call. Because the third would-be Trump assassin, Miller, he has an extensive history of petty run-ins with the law, and from what we've gathered, he appears to be a member of the Sovereign Citizens Movement, which is a far-right collective built on conspiracy theories that say governments have no authority over them. The FBI calls the group anti-government extremists who maintain that while they physically reside in the country, they remain separate or sovereign from the United States. Now, Miller himself is a registered Republican, has a master's degree from UCLA, and in 2022 ran for Nevada State Assembly. Now, could he be an agent for another party by chance? That is something that we are looking into. He also appears to own a California-based CBD company and has gone really deep into some conspiracy theories and dangerous rhetoric online. Fox News interviewed him, and Miller proudly calls himself a supporter all in on Trump. He says that Trump is a man that he deeply admires. He also denied being a part of the so-called sovereign citizens movement. In his words, government is an inanimate object. It's the individuals within the government that matter. So no, I'm not a part of any of that. He added how they're saying that I'm a part of these right-wing anti-government groups. Why aren't they naming these groups? Because it doesn't exist. But yeah, guys, this is a guy who has long railed against the US government and mainstream media. He even said in his LinkedIn profile, for 20 years, I've been working in the media as an investigative journalist, documentary filmmaker, and a content producer. I've seen our rights be taken while the power of big government grows. I've seen small businesses and the middle class be squashed. I've seen unlawful mandates and politicians acting like dictators. I've also seen how the power of money flows through politics and a political class that no longer works for we the people. They were able to dig deep into this guy. Now, apparently back in 2022, he created the American Happiness Network with the motto, Rage Against the Mainstream Media, which plays host to his politically aligned podcast called Blood Money. There's a website where it says that Miller's podcast focuses on corruption, controversy, and conspiracy, topics the mainstream media will not touch. When he was running as the GOP candidate for state assembly in Nevada in 2022, he told Las Vegas Review-Journal he was running for office because his country has been taken over by tyranny. And on the claims that he was a third would-be Trump assassin, Miller just said that it would be all bull. Well, you know the rest. He said that he's an artist and that he is the last person that will cause any violence and harm to anybody. He also insisted that he was unaware of the different gun laws between Nevada and California. Said he was invited to the rally to be head of the Clark County GOP and was wearing a Trump shirt and hat when he ran into authorities at the checkpoint. And according to him in the Fox News interview, he brought in weapons for personal protection because of death threats that he received during launching his America Happens network. The fake passports were all real, according to him, though. He said that he's Armenian and has documents to show his full Armenian name and ones that don't. But yeah, after Crooks barely missed Trump and after Ruth was caught literally just a few yards from former President Donald Trump, I say it's better that we don't take any chances, you know what I mean, guys? Just drop a quick yes in the comments down below and hit that like button to show your support. We're covering these important American topics because most other channels just aren't. So if you want to stay updated on the latest news that actually matters, make sure to hit the subscribe button now, tap that notification bell right after, all right? Okay, now if you guys are all set, let's continue. So the Trump campaign thanked local authorities. They said that they're grateful for the law enforcement for securing the rally site and helping ensure the safety of President Trump. They also mentioned that they're aware of news reports about the arrest and are currently monitoring the situation and gathering more information, which is more than I can say about the Secret Service. In fact, I just found out that 2 men seriously injured in the July 13th assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump accused the Secret Service of negligence in their first public comments since the rally shooting. Remember their names: James Copenhaver, 74 years old, and David Dutch, 57, both slain critical wounds after they were both shot twice at the Butler, PA Trump rally, during which a bullet also grazed the former president's ear. And let's not forget firefighter Corey Comparator, 50 years old, was killed as he shielded his family from the sniper's shots. According to Dutch, there was 100% negligence on the Secret Service, probably everyone involved in setting that security, all the way down to inter-department communications. He said the negligence was vast. It was terrible. When asked if Secret Service failed to protect Donald Trump, 78 years old, and rally-goers at the Butler Farm Show fairgrounds, Dutch said big time. Copenhaver also added that it would not have happened if it had been secure. Right now, lawyers for the two intend to file a lawsuit after they conclude an investigation into the parties potentially responsible for the tragedy. Meanwhile, Democrats are not backing down on their inflammatory rhetoric against Trump. One after the other, they doubled down and insisted on still calling the former president a threat to democracy. Here are direct quotes from the Democratic Party members. So you got Representative Hank Johnson. The fact of the matter is that he is a threat to democracy. Representative Pramila Jayapal. I think we should be clear that he is a threat to democracy. Trump's rhetoric should be toned down absolutely. Representative Jasmine Crockett. He is a threat, period, point blank. Well, like they say, be careful when you point a finger because you're going to get 3 more fingers pointing right back at you. As Republican Representative Mike Lahr explained it, they gaslight the nation for an entire year about Joe Biden's cognitive abilities, and then they undermine 14.6 million Democratic primary voters and then throw them out and install Kamala Harris. I mean, you really can't talk about threats to democracy when you do things like that. According to his fellow Republican Congressmember Nancy Mace, the left is completely tone deaf about the consequences of their incendiary rhetoric. Earlier this year, President Joe Biden told donors in a private call that the media isn't doing enough to scrutinize Donald Trump and that it was time to put Trump in the bullseye. Democratic Representative Dan Goldman also apologized for his comment last year that Trump is so dangerous to democracy that he has to be eliminated. Then, of course, there's Democratic Representative Maxine Waters, who's still inciting violence up to now, including telling protesters in Minnesota to get more confrontational and encouraging Democrats to confront Trump officials if they see them in public. You know, I really wish Trump could sue these people because they're jeopardizing his life, not to mention his family's lives with their inflammatory rhetoric. You know what I mean, guys? Drop a quick yes in the comments down below if you guys feel me on that. Well, guys, the great wealth transfer is in full effect. And, you know, whether it's Donald Trump that ends up winning the election or if it's Kamala Harris, oh God, we're in a world of a pickle, as my grandfather would say. Our freedoms are being stolen, guys. Credit card companies are out to get us. And if you don't understand the game, well, you end up getting played by the game. Now, if you're anything like me, guys, you know, you were probably out of shape, maybe in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, and just feeling like the system is just completely taking advantage of you. I remember for a long time, I could rarely ever get any time to spend with my wife. And it's kind of funny because where I used to work with a lot of married men. And a lot of those married men would always complain about their spouses as if they really just didn't even like their spouses, which is sounding like a pretty horrible situation. But that was the case for many of them. They didn't like who they were married to. But I was different. Anyway, through trial and error and through a lot of pain, I figured out how to gain freedom and also lose a lot of weight and actually get in shape. And guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, that was a game changer. To no longer be living paycheck to paycheck, figuring out how to get the credit cards to pay me, the power of a strong credit score. I pay thousands of dollars less per year for the same house as my neighbor just because my credit is better than his is. And this is not to brag. I mean, but this is the truth. The banks are literally taking advantage of the poor. It's like the people who can least afford it, they're charging the poor what is like unofficially called a poor tax or a tax on the poor. I mean, I'm now at a point where, you know, like, number one, I don't pay for credit cards. In fact, credit card companies pay me to use their cards. And I figured out how to build a lifestyle that is just ultimately very, very healthy. I lost a tremendous amount of weight and I put on a lot of muscle. But when I was struggling, I wish I knew people who knew these things. So anyway, I decided to create a community of like-minded people who are also interested, just like me, in living better. So if you guys want to join my community, it's called the Liberty Pursuit Network. It is brand new. Come on over. I'd love to have you guys and join like-minded people. Be positively motivated by others who are also on the same pursuit. So I'm going to leave a link for you guys so you can join me over on the Life Pursuit Network in the description down below this video. So check it out, guys, and let's not be a victim of this great wealth transfer that is taking place right now. Now, another very controversial moment from that Univision town hall, Vice President Kamala Harris finally confronting the question of her becoming the Democratic presidential nominee without actually going through the primary elections. And guys, this wasn't a reporter who asked it. It was actually an undecided voter at the Univision's town hall. In fact, the question was, you earn your candidacy without going through the normal process. That is, primary elections or through a caucus. He said that really caught his attention and that he also was concerned about the way that President Joe Biden was just pushed aside. So, for Kamala Harris, how could she actually clarify this, right? Well, Harris's answer basically confirmed how the upper crust of the party chose her instead of the people. She said President Joe Biden made a decision and supported her candidacy and urged her to run. From there, she claimed that she earned the Democratic nomination. Yeah. Definitely some weak sauce, but it didn't stop there, guys. Now, again, she pointed to Donald Trump as the actual anti-democratic threat, saying how he would terminate the Constitution of the United States. Completely unfounded, I know. She mentioned the Fourth Amendment against unreasonable search and seizure by a government on you, the Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment, but curiously enough, the Democrat did not mention the First Amendment, which guarantees freedom of speech, or even the Second Amendment, codifying citizens' rights to bear arms. Was that an oversight, or was this an intentional lack of mentioning? Remember how they say Kamala Harris is going to be taking away our guns, and how they've been using lawfare to step on Donald Trump's right to freedom of speech? I'm just saying, it's kind of interesting how these two amendments are the ones that Kamala Harris fails to mention, isn't it? Maybe she's the one that's planning to delete the Constitution of the United States. But hey, yeah, this was just one of the highlights, or rather lowlights, of the event that was sponsored by the Spanish language network Univision. So the 1-hour program was recorded on the University of Nevada, Las Vegas campus and featured questions from Hispanics who said that they're undecided. They're still undecided about their next choice next month. In fact, the network flew in at least 2 voters from Florida and Wisconsin for the event. It was some very interesting stuff, actually. Voters asked their questions in Spanish and English, with moderator Enrique Acevedo providing Kamala Harris a translation when needed while she answered in English. So, in the first question of the night, a voter from Tampa, Florida, asked Kamala Harris about rumors that the Biden-Harris administration did not do enough to respond to Hurricanes Helene and Milton, especially since former President Donald Trump called Joe Biden's response to the storms the worst hurricane response since Katrina. Kamala Harris's response was an attack, and it basically was an attack on Donald Trump and her critics, saying that anybody who's calling her out was essentially playing political games, and that any claims criticizing their hurricane response were just not accurate. To me, this was an underhanded attack at Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida. Then she tried moving the attention to corporations and companies that during crisis and emergencies jack up prices. Apparently, she doesn't understand basic economics and supply and demand, not to mention supply chain disruptions. This is clearly over her head. But yeah, if you guys are watching, you would see the audience was not impressed. Also on immigration, Kamala Harris wouldn't say how she would be different from Biden. Voters pressed Kamala Harris for specifics on her plans for immigration and how her policies would actually differ from President Joe Biden's. Instead of answering, she just kind of talked about her recent trip to visit the border in Arizona and her law enforcement career as a prosecutor and California Attorney General. She said she will not put her record up against anyone in terms of the work that I've always done, and it will always be to ensure that we have a secure border. That seems like the boldest lie to everyone's faces that I've ever heard, but I think she's completely lost it at this point. I mean, a lot of critics would argue that when it comes to Kamala Harris's track record on immigration, there is no track record, but mayhem and damage. You know what I mean? I mean, just look at what's happened. Then she tried pinning the blame on Donald Trump yet again for supposedly leading Republican opposition to a bipartisan border security deal that was endorsed by the National Border Patrol Council back in February. More on this and all the election updates that we all need to know about in our next updates, guys. In the meantime, why don't you go ahead and check out our other videos on the channel? I just uploaded a new one where we discussed Obama's failed strategy at lecturing black men into voting for Kamala Harris. Now, I highly recommend it, guys. As always, appreciate you guys watching the video. Thank you so much for hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, and sharing this video. I'll see y'all next time.